Let us treat you to a vintage episode of my previous podcast, We Knew the Moon, featuring Rhonda as a co-host.
Top up your spooky meter until we come back soon with a new season.
Welcome to the Switchblade Sisters Social Club, a true crime podcast where two sisters exploit their worst fears for your entertainment. You're welcome. I'm Dee.
And I'm Rhonda, and together we are the Sake Sisters. For more information, check out our website at www.switchbladesistersocialclub.com or find us on Instagram and Facebook at Switchblade Sisters Social Club.
Thanks for listening. Hi everyone, this is Dee from We Knew the Moon, where we love all things empath, spiritual, witchy, unexplained, and spooky. So today I'm joined again by my sister Rhonda Safia Angeles.
Hi everyone, I'm back.
So Rhonda is a social media manager, virtual assistant, and editor. Her website is rhondasafia.com. I'll put her details in the show notes. Do check her out if you want any of those things doing, because she's very good. And I'm not just saying that because I'm biased, because I am biased, but I also tell my sister the truth.
That is true. I'm very good.
Yeah. If she was shit, I would tell her to her face. Maybe you should do something else. I wouldn't be one of those family members that's like, oh yeah, you sound beautiful when you sing. Sure, you should go on Britain's Got Talent. No, I always get so mad at those family members and friends.
No.
You know, you can nicely be like, I don't know if you're ready. Or
fly elsewhere.
Why don't you explore this avenue instead? Or even, why don't I treat you to some singing lessons where a professional can tell you that you suck? Anyways, yes, I would never let my sister go on Britain's Got Talent is what I'm saying. So, yes, if you want videos of season 4, then go and check out our Patreon, patreon.com/We Knew the Moon. You can watch full, relatively unedited, I do edit out like toilet breaks and whatnot, videos of us having our chats. And
we're going to need to make a little edit out while I order my cheeky Nando's lunch.
Yes, for example. Or we'll leave that in and people can see what you're ordering.
I'll tell you what I'm ordering from Nando's.
Yeah. So if you want to know that, sign up to our Patreon.
If you want to see me eat my Nando's, sign up to Patreon.
You're going to eat while we're recording. So last time you were here, last week, we covered hybristophilia, which was just bonkers. It was just bonkers. I don't know.
Do you know what? I'm so fascinated. And then part of me is just like, why is there so much weird shit in the world? Did I want to know that? Can I just go back into my bubble, watch some Disney, and
ignorance is bliss, isn't it?
It doesn't exist.
I mean, I feel like I understand the theory of hybristophilia, which is basically people that are attracted to specifically people who commit crimes, i.e. people who seek out relationships with prisoners and stuff like that. I understand the theories much more after researching that podcast episode and recording with you, but I still don't fucking get it. Do you?
No. I'm all about the safe bet. I don't know why people want Batman. I don't get it.
It's just baffling. I mean, each their own. We don't like to kink shame, but also we just don't understand. So
no. I mean, I was going to go back to the victim blaming thing of Stockholm syndrome, because clearly these people have got some issues, probably caused by absent fathers or abusive fathers. But I'm not a psychiatrist, so I'm not really, qualified to say. But based on my Wikipedia research, that's my conclusion.
Yeah. Well, same. So yeah, today it is your topic that you are going to teach me all about, and I'm super excited about it because it is, drumroll.
So I'm going to talk about who Anton LaVey is. And he was a big name back in our day when we were, if you were a kid or a teenager in the 90s, the occult was still, it was fashionable. Maybe not in the mainstream.
90s, early 2000s, There's video and photographic evidence of our goth days. I'll post some on our social.
Post it in the show notes. There's a great photo of us in Lake District. It looks like an album cover.
Totally looks like some Norwegian black metal band album cover. And we were like, what? 14
like a female typo negative. I think we were 12 and 14. It was a great look. Oh,
it was a great look. I mean, I'm really proud of ourselves because,
we were not shopping at Abercrombie and Fitch.
No, we were probably a bit ridiculous to behold, but we were okay with being different. And, I stand by that to this day.
I don't know if your listeners are aware, but the mainstream is not really our thing.
Clearly.
It never has been, and we just don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say that we don't shop at some high street shops sometimes and whatnot, but that's never been our drive and our urge to fit in, right? We just literally have. I
don't even understand the mainstream. I don't understand, we've never understood chart music, popular anything really. I mean, if you when it comes to mainstream culture, I don't know. We were always just weird kids. We were always weird kids. We just weren't into it.
We were very lucky with our parents. Always teaching us, we're lucky with our parents, always teaching us to sort of be ourselves.
Yeah.
And then being terrified about what being ourselves meant, but bless them.
We were, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate, we were the weird kids that spent our lunch breaks in the art and the music room. Mm-hmm. Doing our music work, hanging out with our teachers. That was us. We were those weird kids.
I remember one day at school I was sad and the lunch lady gave me a hug. She was lovely. And we used to, but we also had
hair, one with the big blonde behind.
Yeah. Remember her? She was amazing. And but also we did have an amazing art teacher. I want to give a shout out to her, Mrs. McGuire.
Oh, Mrs. McGuire, you need to be listening to this podcast. Mrs. McGuire, the queen of goth culture.
She was amazing. She was so fabulous. Yeah. She introduced us to a bunch of cool music.
Oh, she took us.
Oh my God, she took us. We went to Alice Cooper with her.
No,
we didn't.
Newman.
No, Gary Newman. Sorry, why did I think
we went to Gary Newman? We went to Gary Newman concert. Oh God, this is a weird story. Okay, so I was still at school, and we went to Gary Newman concert.
I would just like to interject and say that we went at this point to an American school here. It was an independent school, and therefore, let's just say some rules did not apply.
Yeah.
So we did go to a concert with her, and I feel like she taught us so much about being ourselves and being cool with that and whatever. She was fabulous. But we went to this concert, and at the concert, you met someone.
I did. I met my husband at that concert.
Yeah.
Fucking weird. I mean,
so she literally, without her, you wouldn't possibly be married to Jim.
Completely. She was at my wedding. Yeah. But she taught us to give zero fucks about what anyone else thought. we already, had that philosophy, but she reinforced it.
Yeah. So we love you, Mrs. McGuire. I'm sure, I hope lots of people have a Mrs. McGuire in their lives.
She also took us to a Rocky Horror Picture Show convention.
That was amazing. That was so good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She was fantastic.
She even came to the pub with us. This was back in the day when you went to the pub with your teachers.
Yeah.
Now, I was a teacher back in the day until 3 years ago. And that kind of thing is not allowed anymore.
Yeah. Oh. She was great. Anyways, so we were, I won't say big fans of Anton LaVey, but he was definitely someone we knew about, read about.
Yeah, but you know what? I was aware of him. Obviously, we were Marilyn Manson fans, and you can't come across Marilyn Manson without coming across Aleister Crowley and Anton LaVey and all sorts of, shit like that. But I think I didn't really quite, obviously, because I was like a kid, 12, 13, 14, whatever, wasn't really aware of anything, barely knew how to
we didn't have Wikipedia back then.
Yeah, we didn't have Wikipedia. We didn't have mobile phones, none of that. So
to put that in perspective, researching things, when we were still at school, we had the internet. You could Google some stuff.
But we got the internet in 1996.
Yeah.
It was dial-up.
Yeah. So, and the internet was not the same as it is now. So you couldn't just search for someone's name and get all the articles they've written and everything written about them and their history and their Wikipedia page with a nice summary. You could not. There was some stuff on there, but very little. You were still talking about going to the library, basically, if you wanted to research. And if your library was well equipped, then great. If not, then you did not know anything more about that subject. So so it wasn't the same. You couldn't just be like, oh, let me just have a quick look about this person, right?
Mm-hmm. So what I thought he was, Anton LaVey, and what he actually was from doing this research are two very different things. I thought I was gonna, uncover stories about like goat sacrifices and some weird, twisted rituals. And actually, to be honest with you, I have to say, this guy was pretty level-headed, and I kind of even like him. And I came across nothing bad about the guy. The guy did nothing bad. Like, I'm gonna get into it, but one thing that always fascinated me is if you drop somebody in a different era, in a different context, how are they perceived differently? And this was like back in the day, a long time ago. I'll give you the date. He was born in the 30s. So, he was sort of at the height of his fame in the sort of 60s, 70s, whatever.
But to put that in context, that's only like 20 years older than our parents.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if you dropped him into modern day context, how would he be perceived? Anyway, I'm gonna talk about that in my final thoughts a little bit. But for example, Jesus, drop him into modern day context, and
he would be nothing because he's not saying anything that revolution. Well, maybe
that's it, and also he'd be locked up as well because people think he's fucking insane.
Also, if he dropped into this day and age,
I wonder how he'd be perceived, what he'd be described as, what would it be?
Maybe he wouldn't be described at all because he would just be so mainstream.
I mean, you know what? The internet and social media is full of weird, wacky, interesting people. So he probably would have kind of just faded into the whole world of the internet. I don't know, but I do actually find his philosophy interesting. So,
sorry, I just think it's funny the thought of Anton LaVey having an Instagram account or TikTok.
Yeah, I follow him. So basically, okay. So Anton,
we touched on him a little bit in the Satanism episode, but very, very briefly. So. Yeah. Go back and check that one out if you're interested in Satanism as a whole.
But yeah, even researching Satanism, the whole thing was not what I thought it was. Yeah. So Anton LaVey was born Howard Stanton LaVey. I'm going to get back to his name in a bit.
Howard.
Yeah, Howard. It doesn't quite have the same ring.
No.
Does it? He was born on April 11th in 1930 to a middle-class family, and he was an American author, musician, and Satanist. Okay. So his family moved to San Francisco while he was still a teenager. And at the time, San Francisco was like a booming metropolis. From an early age, he had a talent for music, and his parents supported him in developing that. So music played quite a big role in his life. Okay, so my sources, I like to cite my sources. Okay, so I consulted, obviously, Wikipedia. But I came across a journal, and this journal, they really need to hire a copy editor. I think I might get in touch with them.
You should reach out to them. People love getting those emails. I've come across your website, and by the way, did you know I build websites?
Does not have any editorial style manual that anyone is consulting. Anyway, okay, that's by the by. But it is called the Intermountain West Journal of Religious Studies. And so Anton LaVey was the founder of the Church of Satan and the religion of Satanism. He wrote several books, including the Satanic Bible, Satanic Rituals, Satanic Witch, The Devil's Notebook, and Satan Speaks. So he also released 3 albums, Satanic Mass, Satan Takes a Holiday, and Strange Music. And he even played a minor on-screen role and served as a technical advisor for the 1975 film The Devil's Reign. He featured in magazines such as Newsweek and Time. He even had a role in Rosemary's Baby, Roman Polanski's film. Yeah. I think he played the devil or something. So he appeared on talk shows such as The Joe Pine Show, Donahue and The Tonight Show, featured in 2 documentaries, Satanist in 1969 and Speak of the Devil, The Canon of Anton LaVey. So he was actually a media figure. He was a celebrity. That's what he was. He was actually, despite being, part of the occult subcultures and whatever, he was actually on TV on some quite mainstream shows, The Tonight Show, in Newsweek, so he managed to infiltrate the mainstream. So 2 official biographies have been written on LaVey, The Devil's Avenger and The Secret Life of a Satanist by Blanche Barton, who was one of his former partners. And Satanist historian Gareth Medway described him as a born showman, and anthropologist John LaFontaine described him as a colorful figure of considerable personal magnetism. And I think that's the thing in the cult episode, magnetism, charisma, all of this was, real traits of cult leaders. I actually don't think he had a lot of the manipulative, or maybe manipulative, I don't know.
Yeah, because some of it is just being an extrovert, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
but,
you have to be a bit of I think a lot of celebrities, especially the ones that are way out there, are slightly narcissistic because you have to have those tendencies to put yourself out there and make a lot of stuff about you. But yeah, you're right. It's the manipulative element is what the cult leaders have that others don't.
Yeah. And he, from my research, didn't do anything for harm or, maybe personal gain, but not to harm others, So he was labeled by many things, as many things by journalists, such as a religious detractor. Oh, sorry, scratch that. LaVey was labeled many things by journalists, religious detractors, and Satanists alike, including the father of Satanism, St. Paul of Satanism, the Black Pope, and the evilest man in the world. So the historian Medway, who we just mentioned, contrasted LaVey from the likes of Jim Jones, who we talked about in the cults episode, David Koresh, Charles Manson, who we talked about all those people in cult episodes. And he noticed that whereas the latter were the charismatic leaders of apocalyptic communes, within the Church of Satan, this is what the historian said, no one hung onto LaVey's every word, and church members were allowed considerable autonomy. Mm-hmm. Unlike the cults, where they were stripped of their autonomy, their decision-making, anything, stripped of even their bank cards. So he can't really be placed in the same categories as the other cult leaders for a lot of reasons, but those are some. So Anton LaVey, he left school at 16 to join a circus, and then later was a part of carnivals.
Amazing.
First as a roustabout and a cage boy and acts with big cats, and then as a musician playing the calio, which is like
a roustabout?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Hey Google, what is a roustabout?
Hoping you weren't going to ask me.
According to Wikipedia, Rastafari,
no.
sometimes called Rastafarianism, is a
Hey Google, stop! You've misunderstood the assignment. I'm sorry, but you thought you could use a word like roustabout and I wouldn't ask.
Cut this out.
Are you Googling it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Occupational term. Refer to a worker with broad-based, non-specific skills.
Okay. So like a runner.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I like roustabout though.
I was very time-pressed when I did this one. Okay. So in the winter of 1948, Anton LaVey began working as an organist in bars, lounges, and nightclubs. Because remember, he was, he had a talent for music. So while playing the organ in Los Angeles burlesque houses, he allegedly had a brief affair with the then unknown Marilyn Monroe when she was a dancer at the Mayan Theater. This, though, is challenged by those who knew Monroe, as well as the manager of the theater, who said she had never been one of his dancers, nor had the theater ever been used as a burlesque house. So
you would have thought that if they had Marilyn Monroe in their employ, that they would be very open with saying, yeah, she was here, right?
According to his biography, LaVey moved to San Francisco. He moved back there in 1950 and met Carol Lansing. They married the following year, and Lansing was only 15 years old, gross. She gave birth to LaVey's first daughter, Carla LaVey, born in 1952. Carla LaVey is also a musician. So in order to avoid...
Can you get married at 15? What year was that?
1950.
Ugh.
Gross. So in order to avoid the Korean War draft, he studied criminology at City College of San Francisco, then got a job as a photographer for the San Francisco Police Department, where he worked for 3 years. So he dabbled as a psychic investigator, looking into 800 calls referred to him by the San Francisco Police Department. Later, biographers questioned whether LaVey ever worked for the police department, as there were no records to substantiate that claim. So this is becoming a repeated pattern that he's claiming he did a lot of interesting things.
And is he claiming that, or are other people claiming that?
He's claiming it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it is in his biography, so it's not being pumped out by other people. So LaVey and Carol divorced in 1960. And he quickly became entranced by a lady called Diane Hegarty. So they never got married, him and Diane. However, they were together for 24 years, and she was the mother of his second daughter, Zena, born in 1963. But in 1984, Diane issued a restraining order against LaVey, which he did not contest. I did not find other details about this. So yeah, didn't find out anything more about that. So his later life. In 1980, the FBI interviewed LaVey in connection with an alleged plot to murder Senator Ted Kennedy, one of the Kennedys. LaVey told the agents that most of the church's followers were fanatics, cultists, and weirdos.
Wait, sorry, which church?
His church.
His church. You're
Yeah.
saying that about his own church?
Yeah, he is, but that they were, they're fanatics or cultists, they're weirdos, but they had nothing to do with an assassination plot.
Okay.
So yeah, that was his defense. They may be weird, but they didn't plot to kill this guy. So the agents reported that LaVey's interest in the Church of Satan strictly from a monetary point of view, and that he spent most of his time furnishing interviews, writing material, and lately becoming interested in photography. So his third and final companion was Blanche Barton, who wrote a book on him. And on November 1st, 1993, she gave birth to his son, who's called Satan Xerxes Karnacki LaVey. And Barton succeeded LaVey as the head of the church after his death and has since stepped down from that role. So Anton LaVey died in 1997. And he died in St. Mary's Medical Center in San Francisco of a pulmonary edema. He was taken to a Catholic hospital because it was the closest available. But he had a secret satanic funeral attended by invitation only, and it was held after, LaVey's body was cremated. So in 1998, his estranged daughter Zena, who's his second daughter by and his first daughter by Diane, the one that got a restraining order out against him, she published a 9-page fact sheet in which she endorsed the claims and earlier allegations that a lot of his stories about his life had been false and fabricated. LaVey admitted to embellishing the details of his life when he was talking to biographers to charm the public. So although the biographers sort of said that he, had an affair with Marilyn Monroe and he worked here and he did that, that's because that's what they were told by him, which he admitted was kind of false. So LaVey, he did have a major presence in San Francisco because of his charisma. So he managed to accumulate social connections and important friendships within the community.
Because he had a lot of famous friends, didn't he?
Yeah, and some big parties. I mean, the thing is, he was on primetime TV. He was on mainstream TV.
It's like when we talked about creepy hotels and we were talking about all the people that stayed at the Chelsea Hotel in New York. Yeah, how fun the parties must have been there. I got the same vibe when I was reading about all the celebrities that were friends of his or honorary members of the Church of Satan and stuff like that. Like, it'd be a good party.
And the thing is, when you watch him on YouTube, he's done quite a lot of interviews, and it's almost like he's almost like a comedy figure. He's almost like a caricature. You know what I mean? He's like a caricature. There's nothing creepy about him. I don't even think he's trying to be creepy. I think he's trying to be more, have like mystical and have some mystique. And I think he's more trying to do that.
Like male mystic Meg.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, like, if you go to see a psychic who's kind of, playing a caricature of a psychic, that's what you'd find, and so have a look at some of his interviews on YouTube. There's nothing creepy about him. He's not going to give you nightmares. So he skillfully navigated counterculturalism and became the face of a major faction of the movement. And he was conservative in his attitude towards law and order, and he insisted that the church abide by state law in all of its actions. So he was stand on the right side of law. Allegedly, he worked for the San Francisco Police Department, so maybe that's why. But interestingly, although a lot of rock bands liked him and wrote songs about him, even talked about him a lot, LaVey hated rock and metal music with or without satanic lyrics, and often expressed his distaste for it. He played the organ. He probably was, probably was into Bach. I don't know. Yeah. So the Church of Satan. LaVey became a local celebrity in San Francisco through his paranormal research and live performances as an organist. He was also a publicly noticeable figure. This is funny, he drove a coroner's van around town. So he was really playing the part. Like he was, he's a character. He's a caricature, He walked his pet black leopard named Zoltan around the streets. And he attracted many San Francisco public figures to his parties.
I will post loads of pictures and videos of Anton LaVey
on
social media the week of this episode.
Funny, especially like in his cloak with the collar, and when he's wearing his horns. So LaVey formed a group called the Order of the Trapezoid, which later evolved into the governing body of the Church of Satan. So the Church of Satan represented the first public, highly visible, and long-lasting organization that propounded a coherent satanic discourse.
And he set up that church, right? That church did not exist before him.
He set it up. So what's interesting about the Church of Satan is that it's non-theistic.
Mm-hmm. This is what I found so interesting with Satanism, that you have theistic Satanists and non-theistic. So some believe in God, heaven, hell, and Satan.
Yeah.
And others do not believe in any of that.
And
they believe it's more of like a concept.
Exactly. And that was his branch of Satanism. So for listeners, non-theistic means they do not believe in a God. Okay. And that's what's interesting about the Church of Satan. So
they don't actually, therefore, believe in Satan.
Yeah. Yeah. So never one for theory, LaVey created a belief system somewhere between religion, philosophy, psychology, and carnival. So freely
that's his circus days coming back to haunt him.
So freely appropriating science.
A little roustabout.
Freely appropriating science, mythology, fringe beliefs, and play in a potent mix. So he began presenting Friday night lectures on the occult and rituals. And a member of this circle suggested that he had the basis of a new religion. So according to, this is before he officially founded the church. So
and he's like, sure, LaVey, why not?
Yeah.
That's fun.
According to LaVey himself, he ritualistically shaved his head, allegedly in the tradition of ancient executioners. Declared the founding of the Church of Satan.
I call bullshit. He was going
Well,
bald.
I mean, can I finish? He founded the Church of Satan and proclaimed 1966 as the year one, the first year of the age of Satan. However, it was later demonstrated that LaVey, in fact, shaved his head because he lost a bet and made up the ancient executioner story after the fact. The guy was a little bit of a bullshitter, you know?
I know, but also, that's funny.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I think the guy is funny, you know?
So far, the bullshit is, there is a lot of it, but it's kind of, still for me on the side of harmless, right?
Exactly. And comedy, do you know what I mean? Like he was just a bit of a bullshitter who he was good at his own PR.
And I'm sorry, but if you looked at him, you know, like when we were, you know, when he was quite big in the 90s, if you looked at him as like genuine kind of person to base your life on, I don't know. Like you only need to look at him to realize that is a caricature. Yeah.
So you got to see him for what he is, you know? Yeah. So LaVey performed satanic baptisms, including the first satanic baptism in history on his 3-year-old daughter, Zena, dedicated in the late 60s and 70s. He fused ideological influences from Friedrich Nietzsche, Ayn Rand, H.L. Mencken, and social Darwinism with the ideology and ritual practices of the Church of Satan. So he wrote essays with excerpts from Ragnar Redbeard's Might is Right and concluded with satanized versions of John Dee's Enochian Keys to create books like The Complete Witch and the Satanic Ritual. So he was a bit of a plagiarizer too. His use of the book Might is Right, on that, he stated that he did so in order to immortalize a writer who had profoundly reached me. So that was his excuse for plagiarism. He wanted to
immortalize them, but without using their name and putting my name on it.
So basically, that was his excuse for plagiarizing. And followers began to flock to LaVey. And in 1966, he believed he had enough resources to start a new religion. So that's the year he founded the church. And from the beginning, his church gathered a huge amount of media attention. By this point, LaVey began to master his public presence and use those techniques to create religious scandal worldwide. So he shaved his head, as we talked about, proclaimed his title as high priest of the new satanic religion. He invited journalists to attend satanic rituals where nude women served as altars to emulate various aspects of the Black Mass. However, the ceremonies, they did not incorporate all the awful elements that some would later describe.
I mean, they weren't drinking the blood of virgins and all that shit.
No, there was no goat slaughtering, nothing like that. So in addition to shaving his head, LaVey wore horns on his head to resemble the devil. And in front of cameras, he frequently assumed a seductive and enigmatic gaze. So obviously...
Seductive. I mean, if you've seen it, it's not seductive.
It's not. It's comedic. And this is what I mean. Like, go on YouTube, type in Anton LaVey, and you'll see. He does try to sort of create an allure and a mystique around him, but it's more like...
Yeah, it's a bit like, in Little Britain, the hypnotist who's like, look around my eyes. Not
exactly
look
like
around
that.
my eyes, look into my
exactly.
eyes. It's that. But yeah, it's for sure not seductive.
No.
I didn't even realize it was meant to be until you said.
But even though LaVey enjoyed performing for the public, he also had a philosophical agenda. He wanted his ideas to be taken seriously. So not surprisingly, though, many debated that. For example, one of his fellow Satanists, Gavin Badley, acknowledged that LaVey was wildly inconsistent in his views, especially when it came to personal morals. So he paid a great deal of lip service to personal freedom, yet as a leader, he micromanaged the lives of his followers. So from the outset, LaVey clarified that Satan symbolized his dedication to atheism and materialism, and that he did not believe in the actual existence of the devil. So for LaVey, the tribute to Satan was not about committing deliberately evil acts, such as human sacrifice, but, and this is what I like, about rebelling against an oppressive system. Mm-hmm. So for him, Satan was symbolic because he did not believe in a God. He didn't believe in God, Satan, the devil, whatever. So philosophically, LaVey's greatest intellectual influence was, as we mentioned, German philosopher Nietzsche. And similar to LaVey, Nietzsche had little regard for Christianity. He promoted a cult of ancient Greek gods instead, actually. He was more interested in that. So according to Nietzsche, but also LaVey, human instinct is geared towards domination. But Christian morality attempts to repress that instinct. So in Nietzsche's view, in order to achieve self-realization, individuals must reaffirm aristocratic values and reject the herd mentality that Christianity attempts to instill. So
yeah, we talk about this a bit in like the shadow work episode, and the many times that Carl Jung has come up. To be a self-actualized, fully formed adult, you need to acknowledge and understand the sort of darker sides of your personality and human nature, and incorporate them and assimilate them and understand them so that they can serve to your advantage rather than fucking you up, basically. Yeah. And so that's kind of similar, right? Like,
yeah. And LaVey proposed a new set of values that he believed would lead to eventual self-realization. He referred to these as the master's morality, and centered on basking the pleasures of life, domination, non-repressed vitality, and creativity. So LaVey took Nietzsche's philosophical worldview very seriously. He integrated these concepts into his own book, the Satanic Bible, which became the doctrinal foundation of his new religion. But like Nietzsche, LaVey was not wholly a nihilist. He did not teach the death of morality, but instead imposed a new morality. He replaced the 10 Commandments with a new set of rules. So these were LaVey's commandments.
Oh, yes, I remember getting the Satanic Bible and reading these when I was
a
teenager, huh?
So the following is referred to as the 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth.
It's like Spinal Tap. Turn it up to 11.
So do not give opinions or advice until you're asked. It's not terrible. Not terrible advice, huh?
Yeah.
Do not. So the first one is, do not give opinions or advice unless you're asked. Do not tell your troubles to others unless you are sure they want to hear them.
This is good advice. I'm liking it so far.
So far.
Yeah. So far, so satanic. Let's go.
So when in another's lair, show them respect, or else do not go there. Yeah.
Yes.
Right? If a guest in your lair annoys you, treat them cruelly and without mercy. A little bit dark.
I mean, well, if they're not following the one before, then why not?
Yeah. Then do not make sexual advances unless you are given the mating signal.
Consent.
Yes, don't sexually harass people. It's not a good thing to do.
Can I just say something that just bugs me? When you hear men, but sometimes women talk about how, oh, it's all got so PC now.
Oh God,
you're not even sure if you can give someone a hug yet or anything. It's like, if you're not sure, don't do it. If you can't read the cues, then there's something wrong with you.
You know what? It's that people, women tolerated a lot before, and I think even women were conditioned to have to be polite about things like that. I mean, even I remember when we were teenagers or kids, like there wasn't the Me Too movement. So it's actually more okay for men to be sleasy.
And we're not talking about the 50s here. We're talking about when we were younger, when we were in our 20s or whatever.
And that's the crazy thing. Even we're talking even 20 years ago, things that are really just absolutely unacceptable now
were the norm. Like,
and women were
long and the short of it. Yeah, and you had
to be polite about it, And I mean, I know that I had several sleazy bosses when I was young, in my teenage years or in my early 20s, and it's such
colleagues and people you had to interact with.
And it's such an abuse of power, and
you always, and I know this is still the case now, you had the choice whether you just fucking accepted it, bit your tongue, or whether you said something and risked your career suffering or being thought of as like, oh, look at the difficult woman and blah, blah, blah.
This is the thing, honestly, it was not as easy to raise concerns about things like that in the workplace, and at times you were seen as a troublemaker if you did. And it's madness. I think about this all the time, that we're talking only 20, 30 years ago where things were so different. 20, 30 years ago.
And it still happens now. We're not saying it doesn't happen now, but like that it was
accepted. Things do happen.
Standard back then. Yeah. This was the behavior you accepted, quite normal for people to pat you on the butt.
Oh God, being groped
you on the way.
You could not go for a night out and not be groped. You just couldn't.
100% it happened. It happened whether you were within a group of friends, whether you were with your partner. It happened.
And you were lucky if you didn't get groped in the workplace, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So, little sympathy for those people who are like, oh, I don't even know if I can hug someone anymore. Just don't. Chances are, if you don't know, they don't want you to.
And there are people who say like, oh, it's still okay for people to wolf whistle at you. No, it fucking isn't. It fucking isn't. It's an assertion of their dominance, or that's what they're trying to do.
And unwanted.
And they're trying to intimidate you or trying to get a rise out of you. It's not fucking cool. It's not charming. It's not cool. No. Let's just not do it.
Just everyone, please think about your sisters, your mother, your other members of your family of whatever gender. Would you want them to be treated like that?
Yeah. And just don't fucking do it. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, just don't be a dick.
Don't be a fucking dick. Don't be a fucking dick.
Anyways, sorry. It wasn't ever.
My tangent. Can I just add? I was speaking to somebody the other day, and he just did not understand trans issues. And this is somebody who's a fan of Boris Johnson, but he said it's all because of the internet. And I just, and his reasoning for this was, I'm from the 1970s, and
there's lots of ideals.
You start with that.
And things that were in the mainstream back in the day that are not acceptable anymore. I mean, that's not an excuse.
Yeah.
Can I just show you, and this again for our Patreon viewers, that I've been having fun making badges. They'll be on the store soon, or they might already be.
Show me. What does it say? I can't see.
It says LGBTQIA+. And then here, this one I really love. Little rainbow letter coming out of a cute little envelope that says not a phase.
Oh, cute.
So yeah, anyways, so little side rant, but
side rants. Honestly, when I look back and think about that era being not so long ago, and women and young girls having to tolerate that shit, it makes me fucking angry. It really does.
It really does.
It really does. And it really makes me fucking angry. Anyway, let's move on. So, number 6. Do not take that which does not belong to you unless it is a burden to the other person, and then cry out to be relieved.
Sorry, so...
Don't take something from someone.
Don't steal unless you're helping them by stealing it?
Yeah. Don't steal from someone unless it's a burden to them. And you're doing them a favor.
I mean, that one, I'm not sure I fully understand it. It seems like there might be a little bit of a gray area there.
Yeah.
So you didn't think you wanted your Lambo.
This one's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
So acknowledge the power of magic if you employed it successfully to obtain your desires. If you deny the power of magic after having called upon it with success, you will lose all that you have obtained.
Okay. Well, I like that. It's like, if something served you and then you denied it, then you don't deserve.
Yeah. Then number 8, do not complain about anything to which you need not subject yourself. Agree.
Oh, I love that one.
Agree,
Yes.
You're going out with an asshole and he's an asshole and you're letting him treat you like an asshole.
Then walk away.
To that shit. Yeah, don't complain about it.
I like how it's like,
don't
fucking burden other people with your complaints when you could just change it.
Yeah.
And I know, obviously, it's not that black and white. We know that. But that's a good motto. Yeah. That's my favorite so far. I like that.
Yeah. No, number 9 will be your favorite.
Oh, okay.
No, maybe number 10, but I'm going to go
okay.
Do not harm little children.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
number 10.
Or bigger children. But anyway. Huh? Or bigger children.
Yeah, or big ones, but he specifies little ones.
I like that.
So, do not kill non-human animals unless you are attacked or for your food. Okay. Number 11.
No hunting.
No, but you can for your food.
Yeah, I know, but like fox hunting, for sport. No sport, animal sports.
Yeah. So then when walking, number 11, when walking in open territory, bother no one. If someone bothers you, ask them to stop. If they do not stop, destroy them.
Well, that escalated quickly.
So, I feel like even his list of 11 is kind of like
comedic.
Huh?
It's comedic.
It's comedic. It is.
It's like based in some really nice sentiments, but then done in a comical way, which,
yeah.
I approve of.
So these are the 9 satanic sins. So these sins were published by him in 1987. So these are the characteristics Satanists should avoid.
Okay, cool.
Stupidity.
Well,
yes.
Yeah, but wait, but if you're stupid, it's hard to avoid being stupid. Or do they mean avoid stupid people? I don't know.
I think both. Don't be stupid and avoid stupid people.
Yeah.
I agree. That's how I live.
I agree too, but if you're stupid, you can't really change that.
Yeah. Well, okay, they didn't have that back then, but you can help yourself a little bit. So then, number 2, you're going to like this one. Pretentiousness. Avoid pretentiousness. Okay. Number 3, let me consult Wikipedia. Solipsism. Let me tell you what solipsism is. So it's a philosophical idea that only one's mind is sure to exist. Solipsism holds that knowledge of anything outside one's own mind is unsure. The external world and other minds cannot be known and might not exist outside the mind.
So if you don't know about it, so if you are a solipsist or whatever, if you don't know about it, then it's not true, or it's not fact, or it's not something.
I don't really understand it, to be fair. It's a little abstract for me.
That's far too deep for us. Go on. What's next?
Yeah. Number 4, self-deceit. Avoid self-deceit. Good. Okay. Yeah. Don't lie to yourself.
Yeah.
Herd conformity. 100% on board with that. Yeah. Lack of perspective. Avoid lack of perspective.
Like that too.
Okay. Number 7, it gets a bit vague again.
Okay.
Forgetfulness of past orthodoxies. Okay. I don't know how to interpret it.
Forgetfulness.
Avoid forgetfulness of past orthodoxies.
I'm going to assume that Anton LaVey is not a fan of orthodoxies.
Mm-hmm.
And by orthodoxies, I wonder if he's basically talking about don't forget the past and the past mistakes of the conformists and the religions and the this, that, and the other. Maybe.
Okay, number 8, counterproductive pride. Avoid counterproductive pride. Well, that's good.
Well, I like that because obviously pride being a sin in Christianity, but you should feel pride when you're doing well and you're doing good things and whatever. Like, I'm
guessing he means arrogance.
Yeah.
Because so earlier he talks about pretentiousness.
Exactly.
And, so
what was the phrase again? What kind of pride?
Counterproductive pride.
I like that. So basically, turning into a cocky asshole. Don't do that. So
number 9, don't really get it. Avoid lack of aesthetics.
Oh, well, maybe he's saying just make sure the life is beautiful.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Kind of doesn't go in line with the other values, but his philosophy, I gotta say, I'm on board with it.
Yeah,
probably more so than I am with most other religions, to be fair.
Yeah, I had that too when I was researching it, his Church of Satan. I was like,
don't be a dick, don't harm kids, don't sexually harass people,
be kind to animals.
Appreciation for aesthetics.
Yeah.
Try to look nice.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah. Okay, so surprisingly, LaVey's rules of conduct appear reasonable, n'est-ce pas?
Mm-hmm.
Especially for proposed Satanists. It calls for human decency, respect for children, condemn sexual violence, and as we mentioned, let us not take any of this for granted. So, LaVey's hedonistic approach taught people to live life to the fullest through balancing pleasure and self-control. So, for one example, he promoted life's pleasures, but also rejected the consumption of drugs. This is especially fascinating considering the counterculture from which his movement sort of arose.
Yeah.
And
what were his thoughts on alcohol? Did he include that in drugs?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay. But I like that, what you said about it being a balance between self-discipline and like hedonism. It's like a different way of looking at what's right and what's wrong. Is it hurting anyone? No. Then is it actually wrong?
Yeah, so he was a major dissident of herd mentality. He rejected any collectivist attempt to regulate people's lives. And according to his teachings, the truly virtuous person is not concerned about what others think. Instead, they accept the consequences and do not evade responsibility. Very sound advice. Mm-hmm. So the link of his ideology with existentialism has not been explored much by historians, but definitely deserves further research. But again, see, he wasn't all about herd mentality. He actually was against herd mentality. And this is sort of kind of like what differentiates him from other cult leaders, where he didn't want to regulate other people's lives, although he was described as a micromanager. But I don't know, everyone's boss is kind of a little micromanager in some sort of way, huh? That's why we don't work for anyone.
Yeah, that's why we work for ourselves.
Yeah. So one of the greatest defenders of enlightened self-interest, the philosophy and ethics that proposes individuals act in the interest of others, ultimately as a means of serving one's personal self-interest, was 20th century novelist and philosopher Ayn Rand. I did not expect, when I started researching Anton LaVey, to come across Nietzsche and Ayn Rand. That took a turn that I did not expect.
I remember, again, teenage years, same time as Anton LaVey stuff. Mm-hmm. Trying to read The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, and I have to say, I was bored. I was so bored. I didn't finish it.
LaVey openly admired Ayn Rand's work, and there were a lot of parallels between LaVey and her worldviews. So, for example, Rand proposed that the purpose of morality is to teach you not to suffer and die, but to enjoy yourself and live. So, LaVey once noted, "My religion is just Ayn Rand's philosophy with ceremony and ritual added." So, however, there were aspects of Rand's philosophy that he did not give as much merit to, such as her belief that cooperation was needed and generosity was the proper way to satisfy individual pleasures. So, what becomes clear in studying his teachings is that there were numerous philosophical influences that shaped his belief system, and his rejection of Christianity played a major role in developing his religious identity. So, what is interesting as well, going back to his original name, Howard Stanton LaVey, is that he was born with a Jewish surname to a Jewish family. And this actually I didn't come across this in my research. So I Googled, the part that Judaism played in his life. Why wasn't this actually talked about? They talked about Christianity. Why isn't he talking about Judaism? But it didn't feature much in his writings or general output. But according to the Church of Satan's Twitter profile, which I went to look at, still active, LaVey was raised in a secular Jewish household and observed early on how Christians use the term satanic to describe anyone and anything they didn't like.
That's interesting, because so basically he didn't really grow up in the Jewish faith playing that much a role. Christianity probably had more of an influence on him. Yeah. Because he was in a Christian society. Yeah, that's it. So it's interesting because he talks a lot about Christianity, but doesn't talk about the religion he kind of was not really born into because his parents were secular, but... Yeah, well, born into, but not raised deeply as. So basically religion didn't play much of a role in his household. No, but he was disturbed by Christianity's sort of
control.
And maybe he had more of a problem, and I am totally just pulling things out of the air here, but maybe he had more of a problem with Christianity because, you know, Jewish people were not treated very well at this time, and perhaps that's why they were kind of slightly more secular. It's an easier life in that time.
Yeah,
so he might have had more issues with Christianity.
That could be. And actually, this is one of the things I found most interesting about Anton LaVey and his, you know, philosophical, religious leanings and what sort of prompted him.
I mean, he was alive during World War II, so that was a very real factor to him, you know?
Thing is, this guy could have become a celebrity regardless of religion, you know? He could have become a celebrity, you know, he could have made a big name for himself, you know, as an organist, as a musician. He released albums, as a writer, he published books, but his focus was on religion, and I actually think that really needs to be explored more.
Well, the thing is, though, if he was like in LA, San Francisco, there were a lot of musicians, actors, this, that, and the other there. There weren't that many people. Well, there were quite a few people starting their own religions, you know? So if he's like an extrovert, which he clearly is, if he's wanting that kind of showy lifestyle, then maybe this is how he found a way to get it. Maybe,
because this is what I also found out, that although he was raised in a secular Jewish household, he observed how Christians use the term satanic to describe anyone and anything they didn't like, and he saw the potential of embracing that rather than disrupting it. So, LaVey was moderately educated, but he wasn't a scholar. So he wrote a lot in his book, the Satanic Bible. He plagiarized the book we talked about earlier, Might is Right. But if it was not for LaVey, that book would likely have been forgotten. So he says, the book is based on social Darwinist philosophy, which was typical of the late 19th century. So his plagiarism, as we talked about before, was extensive. The book's main thesis is that the poor and the weak will disappear based on their biological inferiority, asserting that the sooner they do, the better it will be for humanity. So this is not his book,
territory. This is getting to dangerous territory here.
Well, this is not LaVey's book.
No, I know, but this whole concept is getting a bit eugenics-y.
Yeah, so he was into that, but the might is right. Do you want me to just cut out all this?
No.
I can take out this paragraph.
No, because why wouldn't we talk about this?
I don't know.
Quite important.
So the book by Ragnar Redbeard, The Might is Right, that's the book where the main thesis about that the poor and the weak will disappear based on biological inferiority. And that book has strong classist and racist overtones. So the book that he plagiarized, okay? All these things are not good. But to Anton LaVey's credit, he removed these offensive passages, and there are absolutely no racist undertones in the Satanic Bible.
So he didn't plagiarize the racist bits.
No.
And
however, he was interested in eugenics, and that definitely requires a little bit more research. This is an interesting thing. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but just, scrap that sentence. So while LaVey did not believe in a literal Satan, he did perform pseudo-satanic rituals. So he viewed these performances as a form of catharsis. Catharsis or catharsis?
Catharsis.
Okay. He viewed these performances as a form of catharsis or psychodrama therapy. So ritual provided his followers with the opportunity to embody the virtues of Satan and to reject the cultural expectations placed upon them by religion or society. So he seemed to be more concerned with the therapeutic purpose of magic. So as it states in the Satanic Bible, visual imagery utilized for emotional reaction is certainly the most important device incorporated in the practice of lesser magic. Anyone who is foolish enough to say looks don't mean anything is indeed deluded. Good looks are unnecessary, but looks certainly are needed. So this goes back to, remember, his values of aesthetics.
Yeah. I mean, he's not wrong there.
Yeah, so he's not talking about necessary person's looks. But in denying Satan's literal existence, LaVey challenged Christian morality. If Satan does not exist, then hell did not exist either. So it's a provocative double entendre. So in adopting Satanism as an ideology, he proposed that rebellion in the face of despotism can be heroic. Yes! Right? I like that.
Say that again?
Rebellion in the face of despotism can be heroic.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that.
So in examining his life and writings, we can see how the power of his charisma and his use of philosophy and literature opened the door to a new and widely spread religious movement that challenged Christian ideologies and systematic power. And for this, I commend the guy.
Yep.
So my final thoughts. When I started researching him, as I said, I thought I was going to read about like horrific ceremonies and rituals, and thought I was going to come across, goats being slaughtered.
Yeah, because, sorry, I'm going to interject now. He also was big during the 70s, 80s, 90s, when, especially in the States, we had Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of, we kind of got a bit of it over where we were living here in the UK, but there was this mass hysteria that Satanists were fucking everywhere and kidnapping children and sacrificing them, and you play records backwards and it'll invoke Satan and make you kill your parents. Those were all things that were just going around in the media like they were sane comments, right? Mm-hmm. So he was big at that time. So there was a lot of shit slung at him, and as always, it was a bit difficult to discern what was true and what was not. And sounds like very little of it was true.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I think ultimately he was an interesting character who did no harm that we're aware of. Now, there were questionable things. He's interested in eugenics. So these are kind of things that I'm obviously not pro all of that sort of stuff. That kind of stuff scares me. I have autistic kids, and there's a big debate about that, eugenics and all the,
And for those who don't know, this is sort of like influencing breeding so that you eliminate quote unquote undesirable traits. So like we were saying, whether that's class or race or disabilities or whatever. So it's very, it very, very quickly descends into disgusting racist.
Completely. And even when an NHS doctor asked me after he diagnosed, because both my twins are autistic, but after he diagnosed my daughter, asked whether we wanted a blood test to see whether it was genetic, which we know that it is, or most likely it is, considering we have neurodiversity on both sides of the family, but he wanted to do a blood test to check whether it was. And I said, well, why would you do that? And he said, to find out whether she would pass it on if she had kids. And I thought, well, okay, this raises a lot of questions of morality, because it's a moral issue for me, because that's not my decision to make. That's her decision to make, and my son's. I don't want to make a decision that will affect whether they choose to have kids or not. And what the fuck is, I don't know. I didn't like this.
This
test even exists,
And also, how old was she at the time?
3, but it also, it kind of implies that you would find out that yes, it's genetic, and then therefore you wouldn't breed. Yeah, that's essentially what the point of that fucking test is. So I don't like it.
And okay, fair enough. If she was in a position to make that decision herself when she's an adult, like you say, but it's kind of creepy that he asked if you wanted to do it on your 3-year-old. I don't know. That's the bit that cringes me out a lot. Anyway,
that's like my thoughts on eugenics.
So it's exactly, because like a lot of these really questionable ideologies, when they describe it, you can describe it to make sense and to sound, oh well, that sounds like a good thing, until you realize, oh, we're talking about Hitler here. You know what I mean? Like making an Aryan race, and also the undesirable characteristics that you're trying to breed out, are they actually undesirable, or is it just your very limited view? So anything with eugenics is just
it's icky, and it's got a lot of questions of morality surrounding
it. And again, who of us would not pass that test? Do you know what I mean? Like, we're Arab, I'm dyslexic, would we have been bred out, or whatever the word is, right?
So I mean, where I was going with this was that ultimately he did no harm, but he, let's not forget that one of his partners took out a restraining order against him.
And he was estranged from his daughter, which again,
it rings alarm bells. He's not Kris Kringle. Let's not pretend he was. But what I do like is that he made people sort of think, and he questioned authority and mainstream culture, and these are things that I'm a staunch advocate for. So he wasn't a cult leader in the traditional sense, like we saw in the cult episode.
Yeah.
He was more of a showman with his own brand of philosophy, probably a narcissist, you know, I'm sure a narcissist, you know. But, you know, as I said, you know, what would we call him these days? He'd probably be a fucking influencer.
Oh, 100% he'd be an influencer.
Him in the modern day context, give him an Instagram account, and what would the public make of him, you know?
No.
So while
remember, again, he grew up kind of LA, San Francisco, very showy places.
Yeah.
And he hung out with, you know, I mean, we talked about during the Satanism episode, the list of like celebrities that were members of the Church of Satan. Like the people he was hanging out with were also like in the limelight. And that was just, you know, their lifestyle.
That's it. I wonder in our modern day setting, how would he have been perceived and described? You know, would he have been considered a cult leader or a celebrity? And what part did the era he was a part of influence his public perception? I'm always interested in that, you know. You know, if you drop something into a different era, a different context, does that change what that thing is?
Again, I think it's because we had all the Satanic Panic that he was so controversial and therefore in the limelight and therefore invited on all these like primetime talk shows and whatnot.
You know what? My final thought, and it's very topical.
Your final thought for real?
Final for real thought. And it's very topical today, considering Boris Johnson's resignation, something of which we are all very happy because this guy...
We can't speak for everyone, but we are. You and I are. Yeah.
Boris Johnson is a cunt. He really fucking is. Let's be honest, you know.
He's a cunt, and most of the people in his cabinet and around him are also
cunts. So many reasons. You know, when I had the Tory canvassers at the door trying to convince me, you know...
Yeah, you know, we don't even have time to get into it.
No, we don't.
We can talk about
as foreigners, we don't like the Tories.
As women, we don't like the Tories. As people who are neurodivergent or have
exactly. As a parent of SEN children, it's fucking disastrous. As
a human, I don't like the Tories. Yeah. Anyway,
you know,
sorry if that's alienated any of the listeners.
To have free school meals at school, you know, like that thinks kids deserve to eat, whether or not they come from families that are high or low income. If anyone thinks that kids don't deserve the right to eat, seriously, have a fucking word with yourself, because that you know, almost above anything else is just, anyway, so unquestionably.
I mean, at the moment, the last few years in particular, it's felt like we're living in a satire.
Yeah.
Right? Because every time we turn on the news, it's just like, sorry, what?
Yeah.
What's happening now?
My final thought is the real evil is in our government. You know, wolf dressed in sheep's clothing, and that actually people like Anton LaVey, you know, they are not really the evil in this world. You know,
to be honest, anyone kind of pushing for people to think a bit more for themselves rather than just, like he said, going along with the sheep mentality, that there's a place for that and a need.
Yep, there's value in what he did. And you know, I think it's very quick to sort of hear Satanism and dismiss it. Like I did, to be fair. I started researching this topic because I thought, oh, it's going to be some creepy shit. You know, that's what I want. And then actually, I've said nothing creepy.
In the Satanism episode, where the creepy shit comes in is the theistic Satanists. It's covered, you know, like we said, our album cover, but we covered, you know, the controversy of the Norwegian black metal bands involved in murder and church burning. And
I mean, I didn't think I was going to end up talking about Boris Johnson in this episode. And, you know, I thought I was going to end up talking about, like, you know, pigs being slaughtered and stuff. So this has all turned out very different than I expected.
No, if anything, Anton LaVey was anti that.
Yeah.
Only for, what was it? Only for self-defense or eating that you could harm an animal?
Yeah.
So that pretty much eliminates...
If they annoy you, you can destroy them. But I think you refer to people.
Yeah, no, people's different. Yeah. That's so funny. Can you read that last commandment one more time?
Hold on, I think I quoted it wrongly. Let me get it. Okay, if someone bothers you, ask them to stop. If they do not stop, destroy them.
Yeah. That's going to be the quote of the episode.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, thanks. I thought it was really interesting having a chat about Anton LaVey because he did play a big role because as teenagers, he was one of the figures, kind of like, and I know that this is another super problematic person, Marilyn Manson, and so maybe I don't want to mention that. Yeah, I'm going to cut that out. Fuck. No, I'm going to leave it in because, you know, we live and learn. But there was a handful of people, especially in the 90s, before the internet was as big as it was now, before social media and all that kind of stuff, who kind of made it okay to be weird and okay to be different and made it kind of cool to be a bit different, which is what you need as a teenager. You need to.
Yeah, you do. You do. You really do. You need somebody to pave the way and say it's okay to be one of the weirdos.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and he was definitely one of them, whether, you know, we never described ourselves as Satanists or members of the Church of Satan or followers of Anton LaVey, but we did read about him and stuff. And like I said, I got the Satanic Bible because I was interested. And yeah, it was helpful to know that there's different ways, different paths.
Yeah.
You can do things with your life and not be like, you know, a Britney Spears fan. Nothing wrong with being a Britney Spears fan, but, you know, everyone was when we were at school, weren't they? And we were not. So it's like, is there something wrong with us? And, you know, the Anton LaVeys were like, no, there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It is. And I don't know who the modern day equivalent is for teenagers these days. I actually don't.
Well, I think because of social media, there's loads more.
I hope so. I hope that kids these days have got their weirdo.
Like, you know, fucking hashtag witches of Instagram. You go on there and you get loads of Anton LaVeys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not that far removed from mainstream culture anymore, which is nice again, that you can, you know, not be sort of ostracized for having views that are slightly different, or religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs, or any kind of political beliefs, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, these podcast episodes always take like an interesting turn because we talked about eugenics. We talked about some heavy shit. We didn't talk about creepy shit this episode, but we talked about some.
I don't. Yeah, no. Anton LaVey, he's definitely not creepy, is he?
No.
But
I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope your listeners enjoyed it.
I very much enjoyed it.
And if you want to find out more, listeners, have a read of the Intermount West Journal of Religious Studies. You can find it on Google. Just type that in with Anton LaVey, and you'll come across a very interesting journal article on him. And
also, you can go on the Church of Satan
Twitter.
Twitter. But they've got a website as well. You can have a little read through, and you know,
and find Anton LaVey on YouTube because for comedy purposes,
I might do that for the rest of the day. Watch some Anton LaVey.
Yeah.
Oh, he would have been great in his own show, don't you think?
Yeah, he would have. He's like something out of like a Broadway musical, actually, or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. He is a personality, isn't he? He's a personality. So yeah. I think we should finish just by me Googling quickly famous members of his church.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Because like I said, I listed a couple in the Satanism episode, and it was really interesting, I thought. Celebrity members of the Church of Satan. Who have we got? I mean, we know Marilyn Manson. I mean, I think they were friends, right? They hung out a lot. Jane Mansfield.
Oh, yeah. Actress.
Yeah. She was, these are people linked, right, to Satan. Liberace.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
I know. I could see him as a Church of Satan. Mark Almond from Soft Cell.
Oh, yeah. Who else we got?
Who else we got? Lana Del Rey.
Really?
No, sorry, no, that's not right. She just has a song about witchy stuff. No, these are just celebrities that have dabbled in the occult. That's not. Yeah. Sammy Davis Jr. Yeah, that's that. That's who I've got. But that's, quite a few high profile people, especially of the time. So, all right. So thank you. Thank you so much for telling us all about Anton LaVey, and hope to have you back soon.
Thank you, listeners. Thanks for having me back.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye. Hey there. Thanks for being a loyal listener.
Do you need a new website or want to boost your social media performance? Or do you hate podcast editing? You've tried optimizing your website and social media channels, but you're still not getting the listeners, downloads, and engagement you want?
We, the Safié sisters, love helping people with tasks that they hate. We know a thing or two about podcasts, websites, and social media, and we love working with other podcasters and business owners.
So why not head over to switchbladesisterssocialclub.com and go to our Work With Us section. We believe in collaboration over competition. A rising tide raises all ships.
Bye!